The knife sliced through the air like a whisper of finality, embedding itself in the wooden doorframe inches from Zuri's face. Splinters rained down on her braids, and she didn't flinch, only her eyes, wide and wild, locked onto her twin sister's hand, still trembling from the throw. "You think this ends us, Zara? You think your silver spoon bullshit can carve me out of your heart?" Zuri's sanctuary wasn't born from blueprints or bank loans. It clawed its way into existence from the cracked sidewalks of the Tenderloin, that festering underbelly of San Francisco where the fog never lifted and the ghosts of broken dreams lingered like cigarette smoke. It started with a squat in an abandoned warehouse off Market Street, back when Zuri was 25 and fresh off a bad breakup that left her wandering the alleys at 3 a.m., nursing a busted lip from a bar fight she didn't start. She'd found Riley first, a scrawny trans kid with blue-dyed hair matted to her forehead, curled up behind a dumpster, shivering through withdrawal and rejection. "Go home," Zuri had muttered. But Riley's laugh was a rasp of defiance. "Ain't got one." "You offering?" That night, Zuri kicked in the warehouse door, dragged in a couple of army surplus sleeping bags, and just like that, the seeds of haven were planted. No sermons, no saviors, just a roof, a hot meal, and the unspoken pact that here, you didn't have to hide who you loved or what you were. By 32, Haven had metastasized into a full-blown refuge, 3 stories of gutted industrial space retrofitted with donated solar panels, a community kitchen that smelled eternally of arroz con pollo courtesy of the Abuela volunteers, and upstairs rooms partitioned into pods for folks who needed walls but not isolation. Zuri ran it like a benevolent dictator, tattooed arms crossed over her chest during house meetings, her voice a gravelly anchor amid the chaos of group therapy circles and impromptu poetry slams. She was the one who stitched up knife wounds without asking questions, who mediated between the Leatherdyke veterans and the fresh-faced college dropouts fleeing Bible Belt conversions. But beneath the tough love exterior, Zuri carried the weight of her own fractures, the twin bond that had once been her North Star, now a black hole sucking at her edges. Zara had always been the golden one. Even as kids in that shotgun house in Oakland where their mama juggled 2 jobs, and their daddy's ghost hung heavy from the rafters after the factory layoff turned him mean. Twins in the womb. Mirrors in the crib. Zuri with the wild curls she refused to tame. Zara with the same hair pressed straight every Sunday for church. They shared everything. Scraped knees from climbing the oak in the backyard. Stolen sips of Boone's Farm behind the bleachers at Oakland Tech High. And that first electric kiss under the bleachers with Jamie Ruiz, the tomboy goalie who made their hearts stutter in unison. "We're unbreakable," Zara used to whisper. Their pinkies linked like lifelines. But college cracked the facade. Zuri dropped out of community college after a semester, chasing activism with fists and flyers for queer rights marches. Zara. She clawed her way into Stanford on scholarships and sheer, glittering wool, emerging 4 years later with a poli-sci degree and eyes already scanning for the next ladder rung. Now, 7 years on, Zara was the wunderkind lobbyist for Helix Partners, the biotech behemoth that peddled enhanced living to the Silicon Valley elite, CRISPR babies for the 1%. Immortality apps for tech bros dodging midlife crises. Her office overlooked the bay from the 30th floor of a glass monolith in Soma. All minimalist whites and ergonomic chairs that cost more than Zuri's monthly rent. Zara's days blurred into schmooze sessions at rooftop fundraisers, where she traded whispers with senators and CEOs, her laugh a calibrated sparkle. But at night, in her Pacific Heights condo with its floor-to-ceiling views of the Golden Gate, the silence pressed in like an accusation. She'd scroll through Haven's Instagram, Zuri's posts of mural unveilings and pride potlucks, and feel the old tether tug, sharp as a fishhook. You're wasting your light, she'd text. Half joking, half pleading. Zuri's replies were always the same. Fire emojis and a single word, nah. It was Riley who pulled Zuri under for good. Not the scrawny kid from the dumpster anymore. Riley had bloomed into a force at 28. All sharp cheekbones and sharper wit. Her hormone-softened features framed by that electric blue hair now cropped into a defiant pixie. She handled Haven's outreach, charming donors over coffee while Zuri glowered in the background, suspicious of anyone in khakis. Their first real talk happened over a midnight shift in the kitchen, rain hammering the tin roof like impatient fingers. Riley was scrubbing pots, sleeves rolled up to reveal the constellation of freckles on her arms, when Zuri slumped in with a bottle of cheap bourbon. You ever feel like you're just patching leaks in a sinking ship? Zuri asked, pouring 2 mismatched mugs. Riley's eyes met hers over the steam, hazel flecked with gold, unguarded in a way that made Zuri's chest ache. Every damn day. But leaks make rivers. See. And rivers carve canyons. They talked till dawn. About Riley's dead name buried in a Kansas cornfield. Zuri's mama's Alzheimer's stealing memories by the fistful. By week's end, Riley's hand lingered on Zuri's when passing the salt, and Zuri didn't pull away. Love in Haven wasn't fireworks. It was the slow burn of shared silences, of Riley tracing the scar on Zuri's collarbone from that bar fight years back. Whispering, "This one's got a story." They stole moments in the rooftop garden, Zuri's pride and joy. A riot of succulents and wildflowers salvaged from curbsides, where Riley would lean against the chain-link fence, fog curling around them like a lover's breath. "You're my anchor," Riley said one twilight, her fingers weaving through Zuri's curls. Zur, who hated sap, just pulled her closer, tasting salt and possibility on her lips. For the first time since Zara's ascent, Zuri felt whole, not the fixer, but the fixed. But roots run deep, and twins share blood. Zara called on a crisp October morning, her voice slicing through the static like polished glass. "I'm in town." "Dinner?" "Neutral ground, Gary Danko's." Zuri hesitated, glancing at Riley sprawled on the couch, sketching protest posters with that focus furrow between her brows. "Fine. But no pitches. See. I'm not your charity case." Zara's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "Wouldn't dream of it. Sis." The restaurant was a temple to excess. Crystal stemware glinting under chandeliers. Waiters gliding like ghosts in starched whites. Zara arrived in a sheath dress the color of Merlot, heels clicking authority, her perfume a cloud of jasmine and ambition. Sir, in her usual uniform of ripped jeans and a Haven hoodie, felt the stares as she slid into the booth. "You look." "You," Zara said, eyes appraising with that old mix of affection and pity. They ordered oysters for Zara, the ribeye for Zuri, and danced around the small talk. Mama's latest hospital stay, the Warriors' playoff choke. Then Zara leaned in, voice dropping to that conspiratorial timbre. "Helix is expanding community outreach. Grants for places like yours. I could make a call." Zuri's fork paused midair, juice from the steak dripping like accusation. "Outreach? Or laundering your image?" Zara's smile faltered. "Just a flicker. It's real money. See. No strings. You could hire staff. Expand the pods. Get those kids off the street for good." The words hung, tempting as forbidden fruit. Zuri thought of the waiting list, names scrawled on napkins, stories of evictions and family disownments. But she knew her twin. Deals with devils always came gift-wrapped. What's the catch? She pressed. Zara waved it off, but her eyes darted to her phone buzzing on the table. No catch. Just sign the NDA. Standard boilerplate. That night, back at Haven, Zuri paced the rooftop, Riley trailing her like a shadow. She's using you, Riley said flatly, arms wrapped around herself against the chill. Helix funds conversion camps on the down low. I saw the leaks. Zuri stopped, wind whipping her braids across her face. She's my blood. Maybe I can change her. Riley's laugh was bitter, edged with the pain of too many second chances. Blood don't mean loyalty. You gonna let her poison this place? Zuri pulled her into a fierce hug, Riley's body fitting against hers like puzzle pieces. Not on my watch, she murmured into blue hair. But doubt seeded. A quiet rot. Weeks blurred into a fragile détente. Zara sent the NDA via courier, a sleek envelope sealed with wax, like some medieval decree. Zuri let it sit on her desk, gathering dust beside Riley's latest sketch, two women entwined under a rainbow arch, labeled Us Against the Fog. Then came the first crack, a city inspector at Haven's door, clipboard in hand, citing structural violations that demanded a $50,000 fix or evict. Zuri's blood ran cold. The timing was too neat. The violations phantom, plumbing she'd redone herself last spring. She confronted Zara over burner phone, voice low to keep Riley from overhearing. This you're doing? Zara's denial was silk smooth. Paranoia doesn't suit you. See. Sign the papers, the grant covers it. But Zuri heard the lie in the pause, the way her twin's breath hitched like a skipped heartbeat. The betrayal bloomed slow, then all at once, like a storm front rolling off the Pacific without mercy. Zuri burned the NDA in the rooftop fire pit that night, flames licking the edges as Riley watched, her hazel eyes reflecting the blaze like twin suns. Good riddance, Riley said. But her hand trembled in Zuri's, a Morse code of fear. Haven buzzed with the usual rhythm, kids in the art room blasting Janelle Monáe, volunteers chopping veggies for the soup kitchen line snaking down the block, but Zuri felt the tremor beneath, the way foundations shift before the quake. She doubled patrols, installed cheap cams from a pawn shop, and whispered warnings to the core crew. Eyes open. Mouth shut. We got serpents in the garden. Zara, meanwhile, doubled down on her ascent. Helix's annual gala loomed, a black-tie bacchanal at the Palace of Fine Arts, where moguls toasted jean-splice futures with vintage Dom Perignon. Zara prepped like a prizefighter, facials at the Four Seasons, a custom gown from a designer who'd once sketched for Michelle Obama. Her reflection in the full-length mirror was flawless, cheekbones sculpted, lips a bold crimson slash, but the woman staring back had eyes like polished onyx, devoid of the spark that once mirrored Zuri's fire. You're building empires, her mentor at Helix purred over lunch that week, a venture capitalist with a Rolex that screamed old money. But empires need walls. That sister of yours? She's a crack in the foundation. Zara sipped her kale smoothie, tasting ash. She'd fed him the tip on Haven, anonymous. Of course, framed as urban blight encroaching on innovation districts. It was meant to pressure Zuri into compliance, not demolition. But deals with the elite were dominoes. One nudge, and the whole row topples. The gala night hit like a fever dream. Zara glided through the crowd in her emerald silk, accepting compliments with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Champagne flutes clinked like conspiracy, whispers of mergers and patents swirling around her. She spotted him across the rotunda. Senator Hale. The silver fox with Senate clout and a Helix pack check in his pocket. Zara. Darling, he boomed, clapping her shoulder with a hand that reeked of cigar smoke. Heard your greasing wheels for our Bay Area push. That eyesore in the tenderloin, you're doing. Her stomach nodded. Just community enhancement, she murmured. But Hale's laugh boomed louder, drawing heads. Enhancement? Girl. You're a shark. Bulldoze the bums. Build condos for the coders. Progress. The words landed like slaps, each one echoing the fracture she'd ignored. The line between ambition and atrocity crossed in her name. Back home, Zara poured a scotch neat, the burn doing nothing to dull the roar in her ears. She pulled up Haven's site on her laptop, scrolling through photos, Zuri laughing with a gaggle of teens painting a mural of interlocking fists and hearts, Riley leading a yoga circle at dawn, bodies bent in vulnerable grace. A video thumbnail caught her, Zuri and Riley on the rooftop, slow dancing to Nina Simone on a portable speaker, the city lights blurring into a halo. Zara's finger hovered over play, then clicked. The grainy footage filled the screen, Zuri's hands on Riley's waist, Riley's head on Zuri's shoulder, their bodies swaying like reeds in the wind. I love you like the fog loves the bridge, Riley whispered, audible in the quiet upload. Zuri's reply was a chuckle, deep and unguarded. Cheesy as hell. But yeah. Me too. Zara slammed the laptop shut, tears hot on her cheeks. How had she become the villain in her own twins' love story? Dawn broke gray and unforgiving when the raids hit. Zuri woke to sirens wailing like banshees, blue lights strobing through the warehouse windows. Code black, she bellowed, bolting from the pod she shared with Riley, who was already yanking on boots, face pale but set. Downstairs, chaos reigned, cops in riot gear herding residents into the street, zip-tying wrists like cattle. Eviction order, health code violations, a sergeant barked, waving papers that smelled of fresh print. Zuri shoved through the scrum, spotting Riley being cuffed, her blue hair a flag of resistance. Get your hands off her, Zuri roared, lunging forward. A baton cracked across her ribs, pain blooming white-hot, but she swung wild, connecting with a jaw before they tackled her down. Asphalt bit into her cheek as cuffs snapped cold around her wrists. Through the tangle of limbs, she saw the bulldozers idling at the curb, yellow beasts hungry for concrete. Zara learned of it via Alert, her firm's real estate arm forwarding the press release. Urban Renewal Initiative clears path for tech corridor. Her coffee mug shattered on the marble floor, shards scattering like her resolve. She drove like a demon through rush hour snarl, tires screeching into the cordoned block. The scene was apocalypse light. Haven's doors bashed in, graffiti murals smeared with yellow caution tape, residents clustered on the sidewalk in pajamas and panic. And there, zip-tied to a lamppost like some folk hero in a bad western, was Zuri, lips split, hoodie torn, eyes burning with a fury that could raise cities. Their gazes locked across the divide, and for a heartbeat, Zara was 10 again, pinkies linked against the world. Zuri, Zara started, weaving through gawkers, but her twin spat blood onto the pavement. Save it. Z. Your empire's built on our bones, the cops milled, radios crackling. But Zara ignored them, dropping to her knees in her ruined stockings. I didn't. Hale twisted it. I thought it was leverage. Not. Zuri's laugh was a jagged thing. Leverage? You sold us out for a pat on the head from the suits. Riley's in holding because of you. Zara's head snapped up. Riley, the blue-haired anchor. The one who'd made Zuri glow. Guilt coiled like barbed wire in her gut. Let me fix this. Calls. Lawyers. The first rock sailed from the crowd, a teen from Haven's art pod, hurling it at a squad car with a scream of rage. Then all hell unspooled, bottles shattering, chants rising like a tide. No justice. No peace. Zuri twisted against her bonds, barking orders. Stay calm. Don't give him ammo. But the line broke. Bodies surging. Zara lunged for her sister, fingers brushing braids slick with sweat, when a surge knocked her into the fray. Pain exploded in her temple, a stray elbow or boot heel, and the world tilted to black. She came to in an ambulance. Sirens a distant wail. Paramedics probing her skull with gloved hands. Concussion. Maybe, one muttered. But Zara barely registered it. Her mind replayed the alley brawl footage from bodycam she'd pull later, the residents linking arms in defiance. Zuri at the center like a lioness. Riley's voice cutting through. This is our home. You can't erase us. By the time Zara was released to her condo, the news cycle was ablaze. Tenderloin takedown sparks queer uprising. Helix's stock dipped 2%. And her inbox flooded with damage control memos. But she ignored them, poring over arrest logs until she found Riley's, booked for assaulting an officer. Bail set at $10K. Zuri was separate, resisting arrest. Priors from old marches. Twin. Divided even in cuffs. That night, Zara broke. She drove to the impound lot under cover of darkness, bribing a guard with a fistful of cash from her glove box. Riley emerged blinking into the sodium lights. Hoodie zipped to her chin. Blue hair mussed like a storm cloud. Zuri sent me, Zara lied. Voice cracking. Riley's eyes narrowed, assessing freckles stark against her pallor. Bullshit. But I'll take the ride. For her. The drive to the county jail was thick with silence, broken only by Riley's quiet fury. You know what Haven was? Not just walls. It was proof we could build something real. Without your kind tearing it down. Zara gripped the wheel till her knuckles blanched. I was scared, she admitted finally, the confession spilling like bile. Scared of being nothing. Like Mama. Scraping by. Riley's snort was soft, edged with pity. Zuri's not scared. She's alive. That's the difference. Dropping Riley at a motel off Geary, cash for a week. Burner phone programmed with Haven's emergency line. Zara felt the tether snap taut again. She spent the next days in war rooms, calls to Hale's aid. Veiled threats wrapped in legalese. Anonymous donations funneled through shells to cover bail. Zuri walked free on the third dawn, stepping into the fog-shrouded lot where Zara waited in her Volvo. Engine humming like a confession. No words at first, just Zuri sliding into the passenger seat. Body bruised but unbowed. The scent of antiseptic clinging to her skin. Why? Zuri finally rasped, staring at the dashboard. Zara's hands fluttered. Useless. Because you're me. The part one buried. The car idled there till sunrise. Sisters side by side in the half-light. The city waking around their fragile truce. But truces are paper-thin. And the elite don't forgive loose ends. Helix's board summoned Zara to a strategy session that week. A sterile conference room with views of Alcatraz mocking from afar. The Tenderloin's a PR minefield now, the CEO intoned. Sliding a folder across the table, photos of the raid. Headlines screaming corporate crusade against queers. We need a scapegoat. Or a fixer. Zara's throat closed. Fixer meant deeper in. Drafting bills to gut sanctuary funding. Smearing activists as agitators. She thought of Riley's freckled arms linking with Zuri's in the skirmish footage. Of Haven's murals now ash under bulldozer treads. No, she said. The word a stone dropped in still water. The room froze. Pardon, the CEO echoed. But Zara was already rising. Chair scraping like a gauntlet thrown. Find another puppet. Exile suited Zara like a ill-fitting coat, loose in the shoulders, tight across the chest. She resigned from Helix that afternoon. Email terse as a suicide note. Effective immediately. Personal reasons. The fallout was swift. Blackballed whispers in VC circles. Her LinkedIn flooded with pity likes. That Pacific Heights condo echoing emptier than a vault. But freedom tasted like rust. Sharp and metallic. She crashed at a sublet in the Mission. A walk-up with peeling wallpaper and roaches that skittered like guilty thoughts. Trading stilettos for Docs and Merlot for corner store Malbuck. She'd wander Haight Street. Drawn to the buskers and bongo circles. Eavesdropping on queer kids trading zines like contraband. It was penance. Maybe. Or just the pull of the blood bond, Zuri's voice in her head. That old mantra. We rise or we rot together, sir. For her part. Rebuilt with the ferocity of someone who'd stared down the abyss and flipped it the bird. Haven 2.0 rose from the rubble 2 blocks over. Crowdfunded via GoFundMe that went viral after the raid footage hit TikTok. Millions poured in from allies in LA and New York. Drag queens auctioning gowns. Tech defectors coding apps for virtual support groups. Zuri orchestrated it all from a folding table in a church basement. Riley at her elbow. Their love a quiet engine amid the grind. They'd argue over blueprints, Riley pushing for eco panels. Zuri grumbling about costs, but entangled in sleeping bags on the floor. Riley's breath warm against Zuri's neck. You're my revolution, Riley murmured one night. Fingers tracing the fresh tattoo on Zuri's wrist. 2 interlocking Zs. For twins reclaimed. Sir. Throat tight. Just kissed her temple. And you're the spark. The reconciliation came piecemeal. Like puzzle pieces fished from a drain. Zara showed first at a volunteer shift. Hauling drywall in overalls that hung baggy on her frame. Sweat beading on her straightened bob now frizzing in the humidity. Zuri spotted her from the scaffold. Pausing mid-hammer. You lost? She called down. Half joke. Half challenge. Zara wiped her brow. Grinning through the dust. Nah. Reporting for duty. General. They worked in sync that day, old twin telepathy kicking in. Passing tools without words, but the air crackled with unsaid barbs. Over takeout burritos that night. Sprawled on sawhorses. It spilled. Zuri's rage at the raid. The cop's baton cracking Riley's clavicle. She still winces when it rains. Zara's confession of the anonymous tip. The galabos. The moment she realized her soul was collateral in the climb. I thought power would fill the hole you left, Zara whispered. Tears carving tracks in the grime on her cheeks. Zuri reached across. Pinkies linking like kids. Power's a liar. See. Love's the only empire worth building. Riley thought slowest. Her trust a fortress with drawbridges rusted shut. She'd eye Zara over coffee runs. Hazel gaze dissecting motives like a surgeon. You burned us once, she said bluntly one afternoon. While Zuri was out scouting furniture donations. Zara nodded. No defenses up. I did. And I'd burn for it. If that's what it takes. Riley studied her then. the silence stretching till it snapped with a sigh. Zuri sees you in her. That's enough for now. From there, it shifted. Zara joining art nights. Her lobbyist polish cracking into laughter over bad charcoals. Riley sharing playlists of Riot Girl anthems. Zara headbanging awkwardly in the passenger seat. One evening, as they painted a new mural, vines of intertwined hands climbing from chains, Riley bumped Zara's shoulder. You're not half bad at this family thing. Zara's smile was tentative. Blooming. Learning from the best. But the elite don't fade quiet. They strike from shadows. Hale's bill dropped in spring, the Community Safety Act, a Trojan horse getting funding for unregulated shelters, painted as anti-homeless but aimed square at queer havens like Zuri's. It sailed through committees, greased by Helix dollars, headlines framing it as compassionate reform. Zuri caught wind via a tip from an old activist contact, rallying Haven's crew for a counterpush, petitions, die-ins at City Hall, viral threads tagging influencers. Zara dove in headfirst. Her Rolodex a weapon now turned righteous. Back-channel calls to wavering reps. Op-eds ghosted under allies' bylines exposing the bill's underbelly. This is my mess, she told Zuri over midnight strategy sessions, fueled by diner pie and spite. Let me clean it. The climax crashed on a fog-choked June evening. The bill's vote looming like a guillotine. Sir. Riley. And Zara stormed the Capitol steps, Haven's vanguard in tow. Signs aloft. Sanctuaries aren't disposable. The rally swelled. Dykes in leathers chanting with trans elders in keffiyehs. A sea of flags waving defiance. But Hale's machine countered dirty, thugs in plainclothes kettling the crowd. Pepper spray canisters hissing like vipers. Zuri linked arms with Riley. Zara on her flank. As the line buckled. Hold! Zuri yelled. Voice thunder over the din. A canister arced toward them, bursting in acrid bloom. Eyes streaming. Lungs aflame. They staggered till Zara lunged, tackling a masked goon mid-swing. Her nails raking his mask as she screamed. Not my family. The scuffle drew cams. The viral moment. Suited lobbyist unmasked as brawler for the cause. Hale's bill choked in committee next dawn. DOA amid the backlash, op-eds decrying fascist overreach, donors fleeing Helix like rats from a blaze. Victory tasted like sweat and tear gas. Haven's rooftop party that night a riot of joy, bonfires crackling. Queer choir belting Tracy Chapman. Bodies grinding under string lights. Zuri pulled Zara aside mid-song. The bridges glow painting them in gold. You came through, Zuri said. Voice rough with unshed tears. Zara shrugged. But her eyes shone. Twins don't bail. Riley joined then. Slipping between them. Hands finding both theirs. To empires of our own, she toasted with a red solo cup. And they drank, bitter beer turning sweet on the tongue. In the end, it wasn't tidy redemption or fairy tale bows. Zara never fully shed her edges, the drive that built and broke her, but she channeled it into a non-profit arm for Haven, bridging outcasts to pro bono lawyers. Her old networks now lifelines instead of nooses. Zuri and Riley married quiet on that same rooftop a year later. Vows exchanged under the succulents. Zara officiating with a grin that crinkled her eyes like Zuri's. You may now rebuild the world, she quipped. And the cheers rose like a wave. Some nights, when the fog rolled thick and the city hummed distant, Zuri would wake to Riley's soft snores. Zara's silhouette in the doorway, crashing post-volunteer shift. Too tired for the commute. 3 women. Blood and chosen. Weaving a sanctuary not of walls, but of will. In America, where dreams die daily under boot heels, They carved one that endured, a testament that love, fierce and flawed, could outlast any elite's shadow.